Hey guys, welcome to the HTML course for beginners. As previously mentioned in the previous video, that's the introductory video where we discussed about the things we're going to be looking at. This particular series introduces you to everything you need to know about HTML, every single detail you need to know about HTML, and I'm so excited to get into it. Before we take off, there are a few things you need to understand. There are a few things that you need to take note of. And number one is this course is absolutely for beginners. So if you have taken few courses already in programming, if you're advanced, you this course might not benefit you so much. But if you're a beginner, if you're an absolute beginner, you're just starting out in web development course, which obviously is the reason why this course is for you. The second thing that I need you to understand is that this course has nothing, almost nothing to do with CSS. Yeah, and you know HTML and CSS, HTML without CSS rather, is a bit is a bit painful to behold. But I mean, all we need to do first is to get the basics of HTML, get every building blocks of HTML. When we are done doing that, then we can introduce CSS in the next series and also tie it up in the last series where we're going to be building a project. So don't expect any beautiful looking web page in this series. And the last thing I need to talk about is patience. You need to be patient. Yeah. So if you're an absolute beginner or or you're just starting out in software engineering career, there is every tendency that you still are not able to sit down with video tutorials for long as say more than 25 minutes. You're probably used to watching just movies for that amount of hours. But in the software engineering industry, you really need to be able to learn. You really need to be able to learn and continuously learn. We learn every day. I mean, I learn every day. We all learn every day. So it is important that you be patient to. I see courses that says 10 minutes to learn HTML and CSS. It's a freaking lie, man. You're not gonna learn anything in 10 minutes. I mean, you're never going to learn any crafts, as it were. You're never going to learn any craft in 10 minutes. So you need to be patient. You need to be able to learn gradually. And this is what this course is about. So it might be a bit lengthy, but you need to be patient. You need to be able to learn gradually and be interested in what you learn. You need to love the process. I mean, if you don't like the process, you'll be waiting for when it's going to end. You need to love the process. So for each thing that you learn, it should give you a sense of fulfillment, wherein you want to learn more and more and more till you get better at it. This is the way we work in the software engineering world, and you need to get used to it. I mean, they say when you stop learning, you die. Yeah. So let's go straight down into the business of the day. So what is HTML really? HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language. That's what it stands for. That's what the word HTML stands for. Hypertext Markup Language. And HTML is not a programming language. Yeah. Like we have Java, like we have C Sharp, like we have other programming languages. But HTML is not one of them. HTML is not a programming language. Yeah. HTML is majorly a markup language. It's really a markup language. It's not a programming language. You need to take note of that. HTML really is used for presenting content on the web. Yeah. So that is why HTML becomes a building block. That is why HTML becomes a very important part. The most important part. Every website you see today has HTML in it. No matter how advanced it is, no matter the complications that goes around building the site, HTML has to be inside of it because it is the foundational building block for any website. Yeah, as I've said also, HTML is the foundational building block for any website. So that means whatever you want to do, if you are going into web development as a career, you need to know HTML. And that is why this course becomes of optimal importance. That is why this course is very important for you to pay attention to, focus, and get yourself together to get every detail that this course is going to be passing along the way. So we are going to get into the groove now, and we are going to look at the tools that are needed to get you started. The first thing is obviously your web browser. You need a web browser. So you can decide to use either Chrome, Firefox, Safari, or Edge, whatever your preference is. But I would be using Chrome. That's the web browser I use for development. I'll be using Chrome. So you can decide to use whichever one you prefer. And also we'll be needing a code editor or an IDE. You probably heard someone say IDE. IDE simply stands for Integrated Development Environment. It's the same thing. It's just where you write your program, write your code. So you can either go for VS Code, you go for Sublime Text, or you go for Atom. But in this particular course and going forward, I'll be using VS Code because that's what I've been using even for my professional day to day. It just seems easy and seems it just seems easy and works seamlessly for me. So and at the end of the day, it's a matter of preference. You get what I mean? It's a matter of preference. Whichever one you like best is the one you use. But for the sake of this course, I would run you through how to get VS Code. I'll run you through how to also. I want to assume that you have Chrome, but if you don't, I would also run you through how to get them installed. So let's get VS Code installed. Yes, so you can go to your browser and visit, just type in VS Code on Google. Most of the time, the first link rather it gives you is what you want to go to, and you want to select this. If you're a Windows, if you're a PC user, you want to select this. If you are a Mac user, you want to select this. So click on this particular button to get VS Code installed, downloaded rather for you. I would not be downloading it because I have it already. So just let it finish downloading. Once it finished downloading, you should have something of this nature. If you go to your downloads folder, you should have something of this nature. So just double click it and run through the installation process. It's easy and seamless. There's no complication around it. Just run through the installation process. This warning is because I already have Visual Studio Code. That's the full meaning for VS Code running on my PC. So it's telling me that I already have an instance and I don't need to install another one. So you can just go ahead and run through the installation process. If you encounter any difficulty during the installation, you can leave a comment below. I'll do well to help you fix your issue. That's that about VS Code. Now let's obviously I'm using Chrome, but I want to assume you don't have Chrome. Maybe you have Safari or you have Firefox or you have Edge and you're looking to download the same browser I'm using. You can just go ahead to Google and type in download Chrome. Download Chrome. Hmm? I don't know how to spell. Sorry. Download Chrome. Yeah. So most of the time the first link you see is where you want to get the browser downloaded. You can, yep, download Chrome. Just as simple as anything. That's the tool you need actually, and that's the tool you're going to be using. So let's get started, guys. So I want to assume that at this point you have Visual Studio Code downloaded and you have your browser downloaded. So if you have Visual Studio Code downloaded already, if you're a PC user, you could go to your search input box and VS Code. Type in VS Code. You should have something of this nature. Just double tap VS Code. Yeah. So you should have something like this. This is your Visual Studio Code environment. I know there are a lot of things going on here, but just ignore them. You might not have that much, but you would have a few. At least you would have this, which is your Explorer. Your Explorer is basically where you find all the files and folders that you're working with on your browser. You find them on your Explorer. And this is your search. This is where you do a general search throughout your code base. And you should also have this, although you might not have this particular icon, but you should have an extension tab. These are all tabs. And your extension tabs is some like an extension marketplace where you get different beautiful types of extension. And we will come to these extensions actually. I'm going to be showing you the extensions I use, and we're actually going to be installing one right about now that we're going to be using for development. Yeah. So in your extension, I want you to type in live server, live server. Now, normally when this is live server, you should have this pop-up live server, launch locally development server with live server. So if you click this, you should have this pop-up. Now you should have an installation button here. This is showing disabled and uninstalled because I have it installed already. So go ahead and install it. Now, in our previous video, we we spoke extensively about the introductory part of the web. I'm not starting with that in this video because we spoke extensively about the introductory part of the web in a previous video. So check out the live stream. I'll leave a link down in the description below. Check out the live stream for an extensive introduction to the web. So we spoke about the client and the server, how the interaction comes up, how that every of our page is hosted in a server, every of our websites, every of the web's information is hosted in the server, and how that the clients can make a request to the server to get all of these things. So this is what is playing out here actually. Yeah, so what we're trying to do here in this sense is we're trying to use this live server to create something that looks like a server. We don't have a server now, so we are creating something that looks like a server, but we're creating it locally on our PC. Now this server is going to help us obviously save our information, save our websites that we're going to be building. So through our browser, we can access every pages in our website. So and that's how the client and server interaction thinking works. So if you want to be clear about it, just visit the link description below. I'll leave a link to the previous video for you to have an extensive understanding of how this works. So I want to believe you have live server already running. So you want to click back on this particular tab. So we are going to be creating a folder. As I've said, every HTML project, every web project starts from a folder. Every HTML project starts from a folder, so we are going to be creating a folder. So you can go ahead to close this. You can create a folder anywhere you like. I'm going to be creating a folder on my desktop. So you can just go to your desktop and create a folder. I'm going to be creating my project folder here, and I'm going to, you can give it any name you like. I'm going to be giving it um, project, simplest name I can think of right now. So I'm going to go back to Visual Studio Code, and now I can open folder. You can see this control. If you don't find this control, you can also go to File and go to Open Folder. It does the same thing. What we're trying to do is to open our project folder in VS Code. So we can open folder, so you can access your project folder on your desktop, and this is mine right here. You can select the folder. Now, nothing really changes, yeah, except that my project folder is opened, so I can go ahead to create my pages now. I can go ahead to create my file. Don't forget where we started from. We said every website is composed of pages. Yeah, every website is composed of pages. So every website, really, in the real sense, is actually a folder hosted on the server. And when I mean hosted, I mean just see it as the word dump in a server somewhere. And that folder contains different pages. Yeah, those different pages are your individual HTML file. Every page is an HTML file. Yeah. So in our case, we're going to be creating our first page, and we're going to name it index.html. Now, the reason why we are giving it .html is because every file has an extension. Every file has an extension, and this is HTML. So if you're going to be creating an HTML file, the way the browser is going to be aware that it's an HTML file is by giving it the appropriate extension. So like you have your Microsoft Word documents, it has its .docx. You have your PowerPoint, it has its .pptx. Yeah. So this also is an HTML file, and it also has its own extension. So if you're going to be creating an HTML file, you have to give it, by all means, you have to give it an extension, which is your .html. So enter. Now you can see that immediately I pressed enter, it created the page and opened it for me. Yeah. So now this is the way we get started, guys. This is the way we get started with writing HTML. So you can simply do this, and this is what we call Intellisense in Visual Studio Code. So Intellisense is just a feature of a normal of an average code editor. What Intellisense means is it simply gives you an auto suggestion of what you might want to type ahead. So don't be scared when you see all these things pop up. It's just the code editor being smart, trying to give you auto suggestions as regards what you might want to type. And it's actually right, actually. So for every HTML file, should begin with your doc type. So once you click on enter on that particular first suggestion, it types it in for you. Now, what is doc type? Doc type simply means doc type declaration. It means document type declaration. It's a short form of document type declaration. Now, in previous versions of HTML, you have to do a load of hard work to declare your files. But HTML version 5 got it very simple and minimalistic, whereby you can just do doc type HTML, and with this your browser is able to detect that you're writing HTML5. So that's really what it is. And you want to also note that HTML is not case sensitive. When I mean case sensitive, what do I mean? I mean you can either use an uppercase or a lowercase for the same thing, and it still works. But the normal standard that you would find is lowercase. Yeah. So for many tags you're going to be seeing them in lowercase. if you use an uppercase for those tags, they're still going to work, but you're not going to be consistent. I mean, you want to write a code that is consistent with other software engineers, with other web developers. So, for the sake of consistency, you want to abide by the already made standard in the industry. So, you always want to use lowercase for your tag. Only for special characters like doc type is where you want to use an uppercase. Now, before we really get down into starting to write our HTML code, before you really can understand what is going on here and how to continue, because I can just go ahead and do this HTML and do this, and I'll go ahead and write my, I can just go all along like that. But this might distract you because you really would not understand at the core how the structure of HTML language works. And that's what we're going to look at a bit before we get down into writing code again. Now, for you to really understand how the structure of HTML language work, you need to understand what is called the DOM. Yeah, I know what you're thinking. I know when you hear the DOM, what you're basically thinking is one strong DOM in maybe what's the name of that movie now? Fast and Furious. But that's not what we're talking about. The DOM is not a strong concept. The DOM is basically a representation of your HTML file in your browser. That's what it means. A DOM is just a model or an interface that helps the browser actually, that helps the browser understand your HTML documents. Now, without the DOM, the browser would not be able to. You know what the browser does when you visit a web page. Now, without the DOM, the browser is not going to be able to understand what your HTML file is talking about. It's not going to understand how to place your elements in the right pattern, in the right manner on your web browser. And that's what the DOM really is. So let's look at an example. Let's look at this code base. Yeah, let's look at this little snippet. Now we have HTML. Don't worry about these tags. Yeah, don't worry about these tags. I'm going to explain every little details about this tag. I'm going to explain everything about this tag. But I just want to make an example of what the DOM really is. When I say the DOM is a representation of your HTML file. And I just want to show you how the browser sees your HTML file. And this is the way your browser is able to connect the dots. Now, you should also understand that HTML is hierarchical in nature. When I mean hierarchical, I mean the elements in HTML has a parent to children relationship. So every element in HTML has a parent. The only element in HTML that doesn't have a parent is your HTML element. That's the only element that doesn't have a parent. Every other element is a child to another element. Yeah, and this by the aid of the DOM, the browser is able to present this structure, this hierarchical structure of any HTML file you pass into it. And this is how your browser is able to understand how to display each of your elements on the web browser. So let's see how the DOM helps the web browser to explain what this HTML file is. So the first thing that appears is your HTML. Yeah, you can see that the first thing that appears on even your snippet, your code base, is your HTML. And if you notice, your HTML has two children. It has the head and it has the body. If you see, the only way you can understand that hierarchical nature is by the indentation. Now you can see that the HTML tag is on your left hand side, and you can see that your head and your body has say one indentation into the left hand side. Yeah, So you can see that indentation. So that indentation basically means that the head and the body is a child of your HTML. Don't worry about this concept. If it doesn't make sense to you now, don't worry. When we get into Visual Studio Code, when we start writing the code and you start to see the way it appears on the web browser, you're going to understand it. Now you can see how the whole thing connects itself. So your web browser, via the aid of the DOM, can understand that your HTML has two children, which is your head and your body. And now going down, you can see that inside your head element, you have another tag called title. Now that element becomes a child of the head. Now the head is the parent of title, and HTML is like the grandparent of title. So you see the way that structure works. And inside your body, we have two tags. We have the H1 tag, we have the P tag. All of these tags are things that we're going to be working with. Don't worry. And that is the way the DOM. This is actually the way the DOM. And so for every HTML, for every HTML file that you pass into your web browser, the DOM is going to the DOM is going to aid your web browser to be able to draw this type of structure. And it is this structure that helps the web browser to understand your file, to be able to present your file on your web browser. So don't be surprised when we write long HTML code and when you go to your web browser, the whole thing display as it ought to. Now you know what is behind the web browser that aids it to understand your HTML file is really the DOM. So that is really what the DOM is about. So we're going to be looking at your HTML tag next. We're going to be looking at HTML tags. As I said previously, HTML language is made up of tag. Every bit of code you're going to be typing in your HTML file is one tag to another, one tag to another. So really, what's a tag? A tag really is a keyword that helps in the rendition of elements on a web browser. The tag is a keyword. Every element has a keyword that helps you to present that element on your web browser via your code, via HTML. And that's what really a tag is. And we have different types of tag. Two actually. We have two types of tag. We have the open and close tags, and we have the self-closing tags. Now, the open and close tags are tags that have content inside of them, within them. We're going to see such type of tags. Yeah, we're going to see such type of tags. There are tags that have contents within them, and there are also tags that have the opening version of them and also the closing version of them. And in between them, they have some kind of content in between them. We're going to see different examples of those. And we also have self-closing tags. Self-closing tag is like the opposite of your opening and closing tag. Self-closing tag do not have contents inside of them. They don't. They don't have contents inside of them. And we're going to right away head back into Visual Studio Code to see an example of those type of tags. Now to aid your visibility, I'm going to open my web browser as well so you can see. Yeah. All right. It looks good this way. So now if you have installed Live Server correctly, you can just do a right click and you can do open with Live Server. Normally, if you don't have live server, and you're going to see the advantage of live server actually, but normally without live server, we could actually just go to our HTML file wherever we saved it. If you know where you saved it, you can just access it directly, but this is easy. You can go to the file and reveal file in Explorer. It just means open this file wherever it is on my PC, do the work. So you can do this and double click this file as any other page. So you can see it's blank because there's actually nothing there. Yeah, it's blank. So if we do anything now, you're going to see it reflects. Let's just type anything on the web page, and you see it reflects immediately. Yeah, but the reason why this live server extension is actually installed is because it helps us in what we call auto reloading. Yeah. So with the aid of live server, we don't need to save and then come to our browser and do a refresh. That's going to waste our time. We don't need to do that with the aid of live server. So if we start this page with live server, we can come here and do open with live server. Now, if you open this page with live server, you can ignore all these warnings if you get them as well. You can ignore these warnings. Now, if you open this page with live server and you make any change, let's make any change. Automatically, you should see it display. Okay. This is a warning from live server because I'm not using a tag. So, which we need to use a tag. I'm doing this because introduce you to, I don't want to type in what I'm not explained to you, but let's just do a quick one so we can see how live server works. I need you to understand every bit and details of what I'm doing. So that's why I'm going to explain every bit and details without leaving anything out of the box. So let's reload. Now let's see if live server works. Now you can see that auto reload feature. You can see that we didn't need to go into our browser to do anything. Once we save our page, live server does the work for us. So that is the reason why we chose live server. It's going to make our life much more easier. So let's remove everything. So we're talking about tags, and I was explaining to you how that we have what we call open and close tag, and we have what I call self-closing tag. Now I want you to pay attention, guys. I need you to pay attention. So in your open and closing tag, yeah, I said the reason why it's called open and closing tag is obvious. It's because it has the opening version of the tag and it has the closing version of the tag. That's why it's called open and closing tag. That's the major reason why it's called open and closing tag. And an example of that is your paragraph tag. Now, if you look at the nature of this paragraph tag, you can see the opening version. This is the opening version of your paragraph tag, and this is the closing version of your paragraph tag. And most of the time, you would have content inside your paragraph tag. You would have content inside your paragraph tag. Do you get what I mean? So this is the major reason why it's called the opening and closing tag. And the opposite of that is your self-closing tag. These are tags that are not in this particular format. So you come across tags like your image tag. You come across tags like this. Yeah. These are self-closing tags. Now, this is the way we write image tag in previous version of HTML. But in HTML5, you're really not required to add a slash on the back of it. It doesn't stop it from being a self-closing tag, but it just makes it much more easier. HTML5 just makes it much more easier for you to go ahead and write the semantics without a lot of closing and opening here and there. Yeah. So this is really what we call the opening and closing tag and the self-closing tag. So we're going to be starting by writing our HTML code proper now. So every HTML file HTML. Starts with HTML. Every HTML file starts with HTML. Yeah. And the next thing you want to do is your head. Type in your head and your body. just like human beings. Say that way, if that makes you understand. You have your head tag and you have your body tag, and these tags are opening and closing tags. They are opening and closing tag, which means you would have the opening version of them and you would have the closing version of them. As you can see, we have the opening version of this and we have the closing version of this. Now I'm going to remove every file so I can focus. We have the opening version of this file of this tag and we have the closing version of this tag. Now in your head, you can add what we call the title tag. Now this is why I love Visual Studio Code and it's really going to help you. And don't leave all these things without going through them. Yeah. The Intellisense is going to give you an explanation of the tag you're using so you can really understand what it does. These two really at the core are built to make your life much more easier and to help you learn very fast. Back in the days, this was not this was not in place. I mean, you would usually use code editors like Notepad++ to achieve this, but this makes your work easier. So don't leave without giving it a skim, giving it a fast read, just to understand what you're doing. But I would also explain what everything is doing in this tutorial. So we have the title tag. So let's add in a content. Let's say my first website. Hmm, something is wrong. My live server is not reloading. So if you also have that issue, you can just close live server and go live, and it's going to start up again. So let's see if we are fine now. Okay, so it reloads, we're fine now. If you have issues with your live server, you can just leave a comment below. I'll do well to help you check it out. So we have the title. Now the title is a type of a tag. So what we're going to be doing in this session really is looking at different tags. Don't forget where we're coming from. We're coming from HTML tags, looking at HTML tag. And we spoke about the opening and closing tag. We spoke about self-closing tag. And we said everything you're going to be doing in HTML is made up of one tag or another. Is made up of one tag or another. You get what I'm saying? So what we are going to be doing in this session is to look at various type of tags, the ones you need at least. There are enormous number of tags rather. So the more you learn, the more you come in contact with many tags. So there are a number of them. There are a number of them. But in this particular series, we're going to be looking at the most important tags that you need. So the title tag helps you to give your web page a title, and you can see it reflect here. It helps you give your web page a title. So that's what that does. And we also have a tag called meta over here. Meta. And what meta does really is to help you with description. That's what meta tag does. Now, this is very important for search engine optimization. Yeah, it's very important for you to give this meta descriptions to all your page. This particular meta tag is very important for search engine optimization. So Google is able to pick details that it needs to present your web page to a particular user. That's what this meta does. And this meta has what we call attributes. It has some attributes that you need to add to it. Now, there are tags that has, I don't want to go into this yet. When we get into CSS, we would really delve deep into it. But it is something you need to know now as well. There are tags that has attributes. Now, what is an attribute? An attribute is an extra property that a tag has. That's what an attribute really means. It's an extra property that a tag has. And every tag attribute is going to be added to the first part of that tag, to the first part of the tag. And to make you really understand this, let's look at this description below. So if you're working with an open and close tag, if you're working with an open and close tag, yeah, if you're going to add an attribute, let's say for example, I want to add an attribute to the title tag. We have this. So let's say for example, I'm going to add an attribute to this title tag. This attribute is going to be added to the first part of this tag. You're not going to add your attribute here. Every attribute is going to be added to the first part of this tag, and it's going to be added right after the tag name. So you're going to add the attributes here. So you can give a space and add whatever attributes you want to add. Yeah, that's if the tag requires an attribute. So for example, if I'm going to give it a class attribute, I'm going to add that here and I'm going to give it a class name. Now this is what we call an attribute, and your tag can contain more than one attribute at a time. Your tag can contain multiple attributes at a time. When we get into the CSS series, you're going to understand this better. And for self-closing tags as well, you also have a way of adding attributes to your self-closing tag. For example, the image tag, you add your attributes to the exact same place that you would add it to in your open and closing tag. It's just that your image tag, same as other self-closing tag, do not have the ending version of themselves. Yeah, do not have the ending version of themselves. So you can as well add your attributes here. So you have your source attributes, and you also have an alt attribute. And this is what I mean when I say a tag can contain multiple attributes. When we look at the image tag, you understand this better. So that's that about attributes. I hope you understand. Now your meta tag has attributes. So it has the name attributes. It has the name attributes. As I said, you give a space. I'm going to close this. It has the name attribute, and you can give it the name. So what this is saying is, what is the name of this metadata that you're presenting? That's what it's saying. So I can say this metadata is about the description of this site, and the next attribute is the content. So you can just say anything, the description of your site, say awesome website. That's what that does. And many times when you check in real website, live websites, you would see a lot of meta data on the site. You see a lot of metadata on the site. So it's basically to help them optimize their site for search engines. So search engines can pick the the data that is needed for their site to be ranked above when people need content on their site. So that's that about the head, and you can go into the body. So this really is where we add content to our web page. This is where we add content to our web page. And you will notice that every tag element that you've added into your web really does not have any significance on your web page. Yeah. Everything you're going to be seeing on your web page are the tags that you've added in your body. Yeah. So the first tag we're going to be looking at is the H1 tag. The H1 tag. Your H1 tag is called your heading tag. Just write it here. Your H1 tag is an opening and closing tag And what your H1 tag does, as I've said, is to give you a kind of heading on your web page. Now you can see this appear. It gives you an heading in your web page, and we have from H1 to H6. Now this comes in the order of how big, in the order of their magnitude. So H1 is the biggest. So going down to H6 is the smallest. So we can see that play out here. So I can go down and do my H2 and copy the same content and add it here. And you can see that it's reducing in size little by little. So I'm just going to copy and paste, a bit easy. You can see that down to your H6, it's going to give you the same behavior, H5 and H6. Now, depending on what you need, you can use these tags depending on what you need. And we're going to be using all of these tags. Not all, we're going to be using a number of them when we're building our project. So that's that about the H1 tag. It's your heading tag. Yeah, it's your heading tag. I'm sure many of you have done documents before in your Microsoft Word, and you know where you use the heading, you know where you use the paragraph, you know that's how it works here also. So if you want to achieve that particular heading, but the difference now is you're not doing it on documents, you're doing it on your web page. This is how you achieve that. So next we look at the paragraph tag. Paragraph tag. Now the paragraph tag is represented by the P tag. Is represented by the P tag. So the paragraph tag basically is to help you write some good paragraphs here. And you can see that play out here. That's the paragraph tag. You represent the paragraph tag with your P tag. And next, we're going to be looking at your lists. Let's look at the list tag. Now, how do we represent lists? We have two different types of lists in HTML. We have what we call ordered lists, and we have what we call unordered lists. Now, when you talk about ordered lists, they are lists that are that have their list pattern in numbers. So you have number one, so, number two, blah, 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 number three, blah, blah, blah. So it has this list pattern in numbers. But when we talk about the unordered list, it has this list pattern in bullets. Yeah, it has list pattern in bullets. And there's a way all of those are represented in HTML. That's what we're going to be looking at. So to start any list at all, to start any list, you have to tell HTML if you are going to be writing an ordered list or an unordered list. And we're going to start with an unordered list. To write an unordered list, you begin with the UL tag. And what the UL tag simply does here is it is telling HTML that I'm going to be making a list, and this list is going to be an unordered list. Now, inside this unordered list, we are going to be having our list tag. Now, this li tag is your list tag. That is what we represent each list as. But the ul is your unordered list. So your ul is simply like a parent to house all of the lists that you have. Now, so your ul is telling your browser that all of these lists should be represented as an unordered list. Yeah. So we can have tomato. So we can just have a little, could just play around with the other tags of length. I'm going to make an H2 and say shopping list tomato, and we're going to have some shoes. We're going to have clothes as well. Now, if you save this, you can see it on your browser. You can see our shopping list that's made by H2 tag, and you can see tomatoes. You can see your shoes and you can see your clothes. Those are your lists. Yeah. And we can also have this same version in an ordered list. Now, you now need to be able to decipher where to use an unordered list and where to use an ordered list. Before we go into that, let's see how ordered lists work. Ordered list is represented by OL, ordered, O, list, L. So it's just a combination of their prefix. So we can also do this, and we can have an H2 as well. Steps to dance. Number one, shake your body. Number two, I hope no one is following these steps, man. It's going to mislead you because I'm not a dancer myself. Jump up. And number three, dance. Now you can see these steps to dance. Number one, shake your body. Number two. Now you can see that the representation of this ordered list is in numbers. So you have one, two. So it is ordered as the name implies. But for the unordered list, you can see that the representation is not ordered. It's not in numbers. It's just in a list. Yeah. So the question that comes to mind is, where do I use an unordered list and where do I use a normal list? Now, you use an unordered list when you don't care about the order of your listed item. Yeah. For example, I don't care about the order of my shopping list. I just know that this is what I want to buy when I get to the grocery store. The order in which I buy them doesn't matter. Yeah. But in the case of ordered lists, the order at which, if you jump up before you shake your body, well, as for me, if you jump up before you shake your body, then you're not dancing well. So when you care about the order, about what you're doing, then you want to use an ordered list. But if you don't care about the order, you don't need to use an ordered list. You can go ahead to use your unordered list. So this really is everything about lists. Let's go ahead to our next tag. The next tag we're going to be looking at is the table tag. So how do you make a table in HTML? How do you present a table on your web page? Now, to start off with the table, we use a tag called table. And what this table does is, it really does not have any significance on your web page as regards the look. Yeah, so you can't see the table tag translating anything that you can see on your web page. But what it does is to tell your browser that whatever content is going to be going inside this tag should come in form of a table. That's what it does. That's why it is very important in making a table. So just like every other table, you have the T head. What this T head simply means is your table head. Yeah, just like any other table, you have your title, you have your first name, you have last name, you have matriculation, you have all sort of things as a table head. That's what this does. Yeah. And we also have the table body. And the table body, as the name implies, is the data that goes into each of your table heads column or row, if you will. So all of these do not have any effect on your browser as regards your site. So you don't get to see anything about them on your browser. Yeah. But all of these are structures that you're putting in place that the browser is going to use to display a properly formatted table on your browser. Now, going into your T head, yeah, now we want to add a row on our T head and data. So you say TR. TR stands for, okay, I'm just going to put a note here so it can be beneficiary to whoever is going to be reading it. Our T head is our table head, and inside the table head we can have the TR. Let's also have a table body. This stands for table body. All of these tags are tags that you need to know if you're going to be making a table, and they are very simple. You're going to see that now. Now we also have the TR. What the TR means is your table row. That's what it means, your table row. Yeah. And we also have what we call TD. What your TD means is your table data. Now, most of the time, you're going to have TDs inside your TR, and you're going to see how that plays out. Now, let's make a table row here. So let's say first name. We'll make another table row. Oh, I'm doing it wrong, actually. So we're making just a single table row. As the name implies, you're making a singular row. Yeah, you're making an horizontal singular row. Then inside your row, you can have your different table data. That's your TD. So we can have the first name. And when we save this, we'll see it appearing already. And we can have another TD. Last name. And see it appearing already. You can have another TD to say gender. See that? So to make it distinct from every other table data being an head, you can just add what we call the strong tag. Now, what this strong tag does is to make your text bold a bit. It makes it bold, and you're going to see that in just a minute. So it's an opening and closing tag. So that's why I have to put the closing version also. So when we save this, you can see your first name is now much more bold than before, than what it was. So we can do that for the rest of, so we can just come here and save. You can say last name is also bold. Come here also and save. So that's about our table head. Now we've made the head of our table. Now, if you notice that TR means table row, so we have just one table row. Inside our head, we have just one row. So this is that one row that we have. And inside the row, we have three data inside the row. So we have the first data, which is our TD. We have the second data, which is our second TD, and we have the third data. So that's the way it works. And the same concept applies to your table body as well. Same concept applies. So depending on the numbers of rows you have in your table, you can add them to your TD. So we can have the first row here, and we can have the TD for the first row. So the first name can be Tammy, and the last name can be Zion, and the gender can be female. Now, if you save that, you see that in your table. Now you can see that apply on the different columns. Yeah. So this is our first row. This is our first row. And in our first row, we have the first table data, which is Dami. We have the second table data, which is Zion. And we have the third table data, which is female. Now you can add as much row as you want. So we are adding our second row. And our second row, we are filling up the data also. So we have stone, dough, and is a male. And you can say that also. So you can add as much as you want. And this is the way table works in HTML. As I said previously, this is HTML. So it's not going to be so beautiful as it should be. But once you understand the way HTML works, it's going to be much more easier and much more fun for you to work with when we start working with CSS. Because the major duty of CSS is to take care of the aesthetic aspect of HTML, but we're not going to delve deep into that as of now. So we're just going to focus strictly on HTML and understand each of these tags. You need to understand the way they work. You need to understand the way these technologies work. There's no hard or fast truth in learning the way these technologies work. So that's why you need to understand every bit of basic. Every basic matters. That's why we are taking our time to look at each of these tags and understand the way they work so that when we are going to be applying them, it's going to be very easy and seamless because you know how they work already. So let's also take a look at another tag called the image tag. And what the image tag does is to help you import image or display an image on your web page. That's what it does. That's what it does. So in order to use the image tag, you have to put in your image tag. And I said for HTML5, you wouldn't need to do this. Yeah. Now, this alone does nothing on your web page. It does nothing on your web page if you can't see any image. That is because your image tag has some attributes that is needed for it to display. Yeah, it has some attributes that it needs to display. And one of those attributes is what we call source, as in SRC. Now, what source does is source equals to. Yeah. So what source does is it tells the browser where the image that you want to display is located on your computer. That's what it does. That's what it does. So in order to use this, we need to bring an image into our project. We need to import an image into our project. So we can do that by opening a file. You can do that in many ways, actually. You can do that in many ways. You can just go to your project and look for any image. Looking for a good image that suits. Any image work, guys. Any image works. Okay, I'm just going to bring this in. So you can easily drag this image into this pane. Just drag it into the pane and it's there already. See that? Easy. Drag it into the pane and it's there already. You can cancel that. So now we can tell our source that this image is located in our directory. Because this image is in the same directory with our index.html file, we can easily come and reference the image. And automatically, our Intellisense already even gives us the name of the image because it can find it directly in the same projects that we have, where we have our index.html rather. So we can easily make use of our Intellisense. And you can see that immediately we saved, we can see the image, though the image is so wide, but we are not going to care about that. We're not going to care about that. And we can go ahead to fix this actually. We can fix it without using our CSS property. We can fix it. We can just give it an attribute of width. Although this is not the proper way to do this. You don't do this. Yeah, as you know, on this channel, we are so keen to crafting software in the right manner, in the proper manner. So this is not the right way for you to do it. But because I mean we're just playing around with HTML tags, so why not? So we can add, can just give it a property of 100 pixel. If you don't know what pixel is, don't worry. Pixel is just a unit of measurement. Unit of measurement. We're going to talk about all those when we get to CSS. So you can see that automatically our image shrinks. So you can give it 400 and that's better. So this is the way you import an image into your HTML file. And we also have a tag called the alt tag. Yeah. So what this alt does is to give a description of the image. So many times when, let's say there's a bit of a lag in the internet connection and the image is not displaying properly as it should display, this alt tag is going to give your user an idea of what the image is about. So that's why it's actually very important to put something there. So just put a dummy thing there. So that's about an image, and that's the way it works in HTML. So the next tag we're going to look at is what we call the anchor tag. Anchor tag. Sometimes it is also called links. It's called link tag. Yeah, whichever one is fine. So the anchor tag is represented with an A, and the anchor tag is also an opening or a closing tag. It's an opening or a closing tag. It means it has the opening version and it has the closing version. So your anchor tag or link tag is a tag that helps you link one page to another. So it helps your user traverse your website. So your user can go to a different page, can go to your about page, can go to your contact page, from contact page, go back to, I mean you've accessed websites where you go all around different kind of pages. That functionality is made possible by this tag, and we're going to see how that works here. So let's have contacts us here. Now you can see that below here. We don't like that behavior, so we can also introduce another tag that helps us solve this. Although this particular tag is a tag that you wouldn't use, that you shouldn't use. I mean, if it's avoidable, you can just avoid it, avoid using it. But for the sake of knowledge, I'm going to introduce it to you. It's called the break tag. It's called the break tag. So what it does really is just to break this particular content into, you can see that it goes to a new paragraph, a new line, breaks the content after it into a new line. That's what it does. So, and we want this guy actually to go down a bit more, so we're going to use a bit more. So yeah, that's fine. So you can see that our anchor tag does not do anything. I mean, if it's a link, then we expect this to change. We expect it to at least give us a link behavior, but it's not working. And The reason why that is because your anchor tag has attributes also. It has attributes that tells the browser that this actually is an anchor tag, and this attribute is called href. Now with href, you can give this anchor tag where it should be linked to. Where it should be linked to. That's what href does. Now before we do interpage linking, let's go outside of our page. So let's say this links to Google. So we can actually come and say google.com. Now you can see immediately it turns into a link. Yeah, it turns into a link. And now the reason why it is, if you click this, actually it's not going to go to Google, and we'll show you. Now you can see that. Now the reason why it's not going to Google is because we did not fully write our link properly. So we wrote the link as if it's a part of our own page. Yeah. So if you're targeting an external link, you want to completely write the link. So you can say https://www.google.com. So if we go back to our web page, this should work now, and it goes to google.com. Yeah. Now this is a problem. Actually, this is a problem because I don't want it to close my web page, but it closed my web page and takes me to google.com. Now we can also solve that by another attribute called targets. Now this target has, you can see below, the 4 properties that this target has. Yeah. But majorly you're going to be using blank and self. You're going to be using blank and self. So what blank does is it opens this particular link in a blank tab, in a new tab, and we can try that out. Now you can see it opens Google in a new tab, but it preserves my tab. Yeah. But what self does, I think self is actually the default behavior, because what self does is actually to open Google on that particular page, which was what it did for us even when we had self. So that's what makes it the default behavior. So that's about linking to external sites or external content. Now, if you're going to be linking to an internal page, let's say we have other pages like about us page, contact us page, and all of those, you can do the same as well. So let's have an about us page. Now, if you're going to have about us page, it means you actually have the page. Because if you don't have the page, it's not going to link. And we are not even going to have anything to type in here as to where it should link to. So it means we have to create another page in our project called about us page. And you know what the page is. A page is simply another HTML file. So we can come here and say about.html. This is another HTML file. So just so we can know that we are in the about us page. So let's quickly put a structure in place here and say title about us. Just a quick stuff so we can be sure that our anchor tag worked properly. We are and that's our about us page, and you don't see that here. Yeah, that's our about us page. Now we can easily come here and say about.html. So I'm telling this link to go to our about us page. Now, if it goes to about us page, I also want a link on my about us page that takes me back to my own page, which is my index page. So I can say go back to home. And you can see that whatever is here is what displays as the link. But whatever is inside this href attributes is where the link is, the location where the link takes you to. So I want to go to the index.html when this is clicked. So if I save my web page, make sure you save your web page, and I go to about us, click on this, can you see that we are live? So it goes to the about us page, and if I click this, it goes back to the home page. So that is how a link work, and this is the basic that you need to understand, because this basic is what we're going to be building on to build other complicated structures. And yeah, we pretty much exhausted the tags that we have. Yeah. And the most, not most important actually, but as equally important as others is your form tag, which I almost skipped. Your form tag. I mean, you fill forms everywhere. So the form tag is very important. So the form tag is represented by the form elements, and it's a self and closing tag. Just like your table tag, your form tag as well does not display anything when it is used. It just tells the browser that a form is going to be made here. Now we have what we call a label. Now, as just like your table also have, you have different tags that your form tag uses to really construct a tag, and you're going to see all of those tags here. The first one is your label. Your label is basically to tell what the form input is about. You're going to see that um, username. So if you do this and save, we're going to see username. We're going to use our break tag once again to make this guy go down. Yeah, good. So you can see username. Now, one of the most important tags that you're going to be using with your form tag is your input tag. Is your input tag. And what this tag does for you is to, as you can see, it displays an input where you can put write something into. Now this input tag actually can take the form of different form elements, and it's able to do this by specifying what type of input you want, and this type is actually a property on your input tag. So I can come here and specify the type. By default, this particular type that you see that displays on the web browser is called text. So if I say text and I save, so I'm able to write a text, input this form element. That's what that does. Yeah. So if we go ahead again to, let's say we want to, so let me label this for you, text. So let's say I want to put in my password. We also have an input that is used to cater for that. So there are shortcuts, guys. There are shortcuts to actually make your life easier while writing these things. But as a beginner, it's important that you ignore shortcuts and you really understand how the whole system works. When you understand how the whole system works, then we can introduce shortcuts. So this is not looking good. So I'm going to be introducing our BR guy. It's coming really so handy for us. I'm going to be introducing him to help us push stuff down. And you can see let's push this guy down. Now I'm going to be making a password input using the same tag. But now if I use this as password, this is no password. I mean, your password is not supposed to reveal itself, except if there is a functionality that helps you do reveal and hide. But yeah, it's plainly revealing itself, and that's because of the type of input. And I told you by default, Your input without specifying the type is going to take the form of your text type. So we have to come here and specify the type. We want a type called password. That's what we want. So when you save this now and you go back here and you type anything, you can see that it's taking the shape of a password. And you cannot copy a password. You should not be able to copy a password. You can see that I'm not able to copy it. Yeah. But if you type something here, you should be able to. Oh, that's a mistake. You should be able to copy it. Should be able to copy it. So all of this functionality is what this input gives you, but it's able to alternate itself because of this type attributes. Now let's see another type. We have a whole lot of them. I'm going to be showing you. We have checkbox. We have checkbox. So we can say select your interest, and we can say select your interest, and we're going to, don't forget to add this so it doesn't display awkwardly. That just helps us make our work neat. And this is, we are doing this because we are doing HTML alone, or we would have actually used CSS to make it look good. But when we get to CSS, we're going to tackle that. But I need you to understand this so well first. So we have another input that displays a checkbox. Now this type is going to be called a checkbox. You're going to see what checkbox are, guys. Now you can see this is what checkbox are. This is what checkbox are. But we don't like the way it's displaying. We want this checkbox to come down. So we can as well use our BR tag. This is our checkbox. So let's add something to display here. So we can say football. And if we save that, you can see that. So we can have another. You can have as much as you want. So I'm just going to copy and paste. I don't want to do any technique that's going to get you confused. I'm just going to copy and paste. Dancing. You can see that singing. You can see that as well. So you can check them. Check them. You can see these controls, guys. Beautiful. Aren't they beautiful? And lovely. And that's the checkbox. And you can see that we're achieving this different variation of form elements using just one tag. But the only thing that alternates is the type attributes. So we have type for text, we have type for password, we have type for checkbox, and we also have what we call radio buttons as well. Radio buttons. And you know where you use your checkbox. You use your checkbox when you want to give your user the ability to select more than one option. That's why you use your checkbox. And that's why you use it for things like this, like interest. And you also know where you use your radio button. When you want to give your user the ability to select just a singular option out of a number of options, that's where you use your radio button. So let's see that at work. So let's say you want to give your user the ability to select their gender. So let's also have that BR tag here, our break tag. So it makes everything looks good and dandy. So we have our inputs, and let's add type here, male. Oh, I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry. This ought to be radio. Radio. So we have male and we have female. Now let's also separate this so we can have it look good with a break tag. Now if you scroll down, you can see that, guys, male and female. But something fun is going to happen. You can see that, guys. This is allowing you select both male and female, which is not right. Allowing you select both male and female. And we said the radio button ought to allow you to select only a singular option out of a number of options. Now this is because you still have to go one step further when trying to implement this behavior. You still have to go one step further. And there is a particular attribute called the name attribute. Now, this name attribute helps the browser understand that these two radio buttons are in the same category. Hence, only one option should be selected. So it's going to put a validation or a restriction, if you will, on this particular element. So you can only select just a singular option. So we can say gender, and we can also tell the browser this particular radio button is also part of the gender category. So you would allow my user to select a singular option. So when we click on this, you can see that, guys. You can see that. Beautiful, beautiful. It allows us to select just a singular option. That's how the radio button works. And we also have the file element. File input rather. Now the file input basically helps you to upload files. It helps you to upload files to your browser. That's what it does. I mean, you all must be conversant with uploading your your images on Facebook, on Twitter, and all of the social media. This is the element that is used to make that upload possible. And now we have type. It has a type called file. Once you do this, you can see that the browser is going to give you that ability to be able to upload stuff on your browser. So we can also just add the BR tag just to make it look good and dandy. You can see this, guys. So I can simply come here, click on it. It gives me the ability to select any file I want to upload. And that's it, guys. Great stuff. Great, great, great stuff. So it gives you the ability to be able to upload stuff. And these are the things you need to understand, guys. These are the basic concepts that you need to understand in HTML to enable you to start your career in building websites and building um, great and fantastic websites. These are the building blocks that we are going to be putting together to help us build the final projects that we're going to be building. Yeah, and that's for file. I think there are a number of them, but these are the most important one that you really need to know. You need to wrap your head around. If I get to remember any other one, I'll surely let you know. And yeah, these are majorly the tags that you need to understand, that you need to know about. As I said, there are tons of tags in HTML. There are tons of tags. So this is why for us, carrying out research and working is a compulsory thing for us to do, because the more we do, the more we learn. You can't learn everything in a single tutorial. I mean, these are the tags I could cover, and we've spent almost an hour or so now. Yeah. So, and there are still tons of tags. So it calls for dedication, it calls for passion and willingness to learn. So, guys, we're going to be looking at HTML semantics, HTML5 semantics. We're going to be looking at HTML5 semantics. So HTML5 semantics elements clearly define its meaning to both the browser and the developer. So these semantics were introduced to be used in HTML5. So what it simply does is it enables you use semantics words that are easily detected, that gives meaning, that makes sense to both the developer and the browser. And as you can see them, this is the header, and this is what you have as an header. This is your navigation. So you can either use an header here or your navigation, whichever one works. Most of the time you would have your logo somewhere here and you would have links somewhere here. Same goes for navigation. And you also have section here. We're going to be using section. So say you're building a blog or a personal website, you're going to have sections in your website, sections, and you also have articles also. Most of the time you're going to be using articles in between your sections. And you have aside, you would have seen blogs where you have stuffs, information at this particular portion of the website when the main information is takes a larger portion of the website. So that particular portion is what HTML5 call aside, and we have the footer. So all of these namings make sense to the developer, and it also makes sense to the browser. And we are going to be using this semantics to build a mini blog. We're going to be building a mini blog with this semantics. So I'm not going to wipe off this code base. I'm just going to create another page. So I'm going to call this blog.html. So we're just going to put together all we have learned to create a blog. Create a blog. So we're also going to add a link to our blog in our index so we can link up. I'm sure you can do that now. Href blog.html. So you click on blog, it takes you there. So let's go to our blog, guys, and we'll start with our doc type. Oh, forget. And then add our head, adding a meta name, title, contents, my blog. You can also add another meta for description. Name of the meta is description. There is no casted on stone rule as regards um how many meta you need to add, but for search engine optimization, I guess there is a laid down principle as regards how you go about them. I can't spell description. Yeah, how you go about them. But we're not going to be looking into all of those details now. We're just going to be building the blog. And you can clearly see that I don't care. Okay, so we're also going to be having our title. My blog. So what we're going to do, guys, what we are aiming at is to use the HTML5 semantics that we spoke about. We're going to use all of these semantics to build something. That's what we're trying to do. So we're going to start with header, and you know what your header is made up of. Your header is made up of your logo. So you're going to have something that serves as a logo. Unfortunately, we don't have a logo here. So we're just going to try to import an image and use any random image. So we need to bring an image in, or we could, okay, let's try to bring an image in. Look for any random image. Okay, let's rename this guy. It's too long. So let's bring this guy in. Yep. So we're going to use that guy as our logo. So we can say source logo.png. So that guy is too wide, so we can use a width property. You can use a Control B, guys, to close your side tab. Control B closes it and toggle. So we can give this guy 200 pixel. Let's see what it looks like. Let's say 100. Okay, that's perfect. So in our header, we have logos and we also have links. You usually see your blog with links. It's not going to look fine now because we're just using HTML, but who cares? We need to know the basics. So we are going to make a list. We're going to make an unordered list of links. So we're going to say um about me, contacts me. You can see that, guys. Now these are not links, these are mere text. These are mere text, so we need to use a proper link. Actually skipped that. So for a proper link, we use our a tag, anchor tag, and in between of that we use this. So we can call this href. HTML. Sorry guys. Sorry guys. So we can have another tag about, that's our anchor tag. Hope you're following, guys. Hope you're following. You can do a playback if you're a bit confused. You can just do a playback to understand what we're doing. And if you have any question, please ask right down in the comment section below. I'll be more than willing to provide solutions. So we don't have a contact.html page, so let's create one. Contact.html. There's going to be a blank page, but who cares? All right, so look at our links. We have our links, good and dandy, and you can see that all of them resides in our header. Now, instead of header, you could also use a nav. You can use a nav, and it works the same way. That's what this is trying to tell you. You could use a nav, you could use an header. They work right both the same way. So we're going to stick with an header. So after your header, we have sections. We have sections. Yeah. Now there is actually one tag that I didn't talk about. Let's go back and talk about that tag before I forget. So before we go back to our blog. The tag is called a div. Div actually stands for division. That's what it means. Division. That's what it means. So previously the table tag is used to make layouts. So we'll have a table for the header, we have a table for the sidebar, we have a table for the footer. That's the way layout is being made, or you have a single table and you have different table row, table data, and all of that. But modern websites now div, uses the div attributes. Modern websites uses the div attributes for layout. That's what it's used for. You would not see its appearance, but it is used to section your website to make it look good. Yeah, and you can also use CSS to do wonderful stuff with it. So I just thought to mention that to you. So we could actually use it here. So I could cut all this, just do a Control X on that and do a div. Yeah, and then we put all of our contents inside of it. Yeah, so it just gives it this nice and look feeling. So in our first section, we can have an article. In this section, we can have an article. We can have an article, and in this article, we can have an H2 tag that gives us the title. So you can say blog one, and I'm just going to use a random text, guys. Random text. And you can see that we have log one. Now this text is what we call lorem ipsum. Lorem ipsum is just a random text that we use to just fill up for the time being. You get the original text. So this is my first article. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put all of these articles inside a division, inside a div, so I can distinctly recognize different articles. So it changes nothing, but it gives you a good alignment. So now you can have 2 to 3 articles here in the same section. Okay, article 3. You can have article 3 here. You can see how it looks. It looks so good. And in your article, you can have a small. This is also another tag that you should know. It's All it simply does is to give you a very small text. So you can say author. You can see that, guys, a very small text. That's what it does. So we can copy this and put this here as well. Put it here as well. Yeah. So we should have an H1. This is welcome to my blog, like an introductory message. Yeah, cool. And you can see the way we are using HTML5 semantics to make this thing look good, and putting together all we have learned using our image and using our different tags that we've learned. And we can also, after the section, we can have our footer as well. So we can just have a p tag that says anything, guys. Anything, guys. Thanks for visiting. And you can see that, guys, appears in the footer. So this is how you can use HTML5 semantics to create a very beautiful looking context, guys. This is how you can use HTML5 semantics. And guys, we've gone a long way. We've gone a long way. Thanks for tuning in to check out the HTML series. And the next series that we're going to be looking at is the CSS series. CSS video, rather. That's the next thing we're going to be looking at. And we're going to be looking at how to use CSS to style our web page and to make it come alive and to make it look good. I'm going to be dropping the link to get this code base if you're interested in getting this code base, and important slides, and the slides I use also, I'm going to be uploading them into our Slack channel, which is Zion Code Farm. Basically, the essence of Zion Code Farm really is to help upcoming beginners in software engineering career that cannot afford the outrageous amount of code institutes. That was the reason why I personally began Zion Code Farm, and I currently see to it that all of our members have access to top tier content like this that you're watching. And my aim really is to give mentorship and help them come up to speed with software engineering, and all of this is for free. All of this is for free. All of this is for free because we believe that anyone who has passion for a thing, a good thing, should be given an opportunity, deserves an opportunity to become what they want to become. So this is the essence of Zion Code Farm. If this interests you, if you're also a beginner, you can click on the link below to join the community, to join the Slack channel, and so you can get information as to what we're doing, and also mentorships, and also materials like the slide for this particular presentation and the code base. Thank you for joining in, guys. Thank you so much for joining in. I hope you've learned a lot. See you on the next video.